Rightio, we are on. Sam Ramlu, welcome to the Luke Farr Show to motivate, educate, and inspire our next generation of leaders. Thank you for coming on.
Kia ora. Thank you for having me.
Very exciting to have you here, and I guess just to give the audience a little bit of a synopsis about who you are and what you're up to. You are the co-founder of Method, which is an award-winning creative tech studio, along with Wanderer, which is the studio behind the acclaimed VR adventure game of the same name. You're an influential thought leader, storyteller, industry champion, and creative technology innovator. Geez, I need to get a breath here. You have spent over 20 years bringing awe-inspiring stories and experiences to life through digital and emerging technology. I mean, first things first, what gave you that sort of initial buzz, like about tech, and sort of start to essentially start exploring your creative side?
Firstly, I just want to say thank you to my copywriter friend Mark, who's done an amazing job on my bio. I was like, that person sounds epic. Can't wait
and
to
that
meet him one day.
You.
Yes. Look, I think, like since I was a teenager and younger, we've just always been into games, playing games, and I wanted to be, there were a couple of things I could be actually when I was a teenager. I could be a typist, don't even ask. My dad was like, you want to be a typist? So I just love typing. A lawyer, so, suddenly it went higher, or a copywriter, a creative, a writer. And so I was kind of glad I went away.
Typing to law to copyright, interesting.
Yeah, so I'm really good at like debating and having arguments, so that's great. I'm really good at typing. Like Mavis Beacon taught me everything I know. And
how many words per minute are you?
I was 88 when I would last
88.
Yeah.
That's like sitting at like bronze level. I was hitting the 120s.
I was good. I'm telling you. I wanted
88 at what age though? 11 or?
Oh, no, like 16, 17. Also, this is when we were doing typing in school. So it's going back a while.
You wouldn't have got to global nationals on that 88. No way. Do you think
I did some Pitman typing tests, but anyway, we're digressing. And then the writing. So I feel like I've brought elements of all of them into my role, but essentially just really, really interested in, just loved reading books and reading stories. And so a bit of a book hoarder, actually. And I think that's probably where it's come from. And games that are kind of more of the adventure game, story, narrative-based games. And so I think that's just led into the work in my life, really.
Yeah, nice. And you say book hoarder, has that got anything to do with the current setting that you're in with all the books? Yeah, you're like, funny you mentioned that, Luke. I want to chat about a couple of books.
Yeah, and that's just a slice of, I kind of get banned on buying books. And so I've recently bought something where I can, and I'm not a big ebook fan, but I guess, when you run out of space in your house, because literally outside of this, it's just books. But no, I just love reading, and I love owning the books, I used to get all the books.
How did you go from like typing to thinking about law to Mavis Beacon and then to where you are now?
Hey, anyone, you can live your dream. Yeah, look, I think, when I left school and I was very, very academic, I got to a point where actually I was probably quite burnt out being academic. So I went to university for 6 months and then just went, I can't study anymore. I'm done and having been like.
Did you do law?
No, I didn't. I did commerce and philosophy and literature. So right. I was just bored. The commerce stuff really bored me. And I kind of just went, look, I just want to go and experience working. And so I started working. So that's when my typing skills came in real handy.
Lovely. I was about to say, there's not such a thing as a degree in typing, is there? But nonetheless.
No. So, and philosophy was just like, oh, you guys are asking too many questions, and so, yeah. And I think by that time, because I'd been so academically focused, it got to a point where I was kind of just couldn't keep doing that. I met my partner at the time around the same time, so that might have been, influential. And luckily that worked out. So he's still around, so that's great. Didn't just give up university for nothing. But
you can't
I just found that I needed to be doing something else, and so I started working. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And so what, run us through that trajectory to like starting work, and then obviously getting into the realm that you are now, through, especially with I mean, you've been doing some phenomenal things in the gaming space, so
Yeah, so firstly, kind of went into, after a couple of jobs in sort of marketing assistant roles, got into advertising and kind of started to see a real, sort of longer term career personally in there. And I was kind of more on the management side, account management side and client management. But out of that, working through a couple of small studios, so I was really managing the client's sort of expectations and briefing. And around the same time, like a few years in, my partner who is in web design, which was very new back then. It was literally everything creative tech was in web design and development at the time. He was doing that separately. We started getting sort of a few people coming to us directly, wanting us to do some websites through my agencies that I was working at. We were kind of like exploring how web could work for people. And so it was brand new. This is like early 2000s, I'm really old. And so we kind of started to see this, we were benchmarking ourselves against what we saw internationally. So we were seeing these amazing Flash-based websites, and we were like, imagine if we could do that. And it's all about telling story online, and getting people to delve deeper and exploring. And so long story short, we kind of, we thought, let's make a business out of this. There's some real potential to do some amazing work in Aotearoa. And so we joined up and created our studio Method in 2003 officially, and kind of started working on projects from there.
Fantastic. And you said there around that you're an account exec essentially. I mean, did you learn a lot about storytelling in that capacity of a role, and also sales? Were you selling and pitching in ideation?
Yeah, more pitching in and managing those projects. And then actually as part of the process, because it was always part of a smaller team, was coming up with, I was always told that I wrote the best briefs because a lot of times. Because
you're a good writer and a typer. Yeah, it's all starting to sort of come together now.
Yeah. And so, and so, people used to love getting briefs from me because like, oh, you're really clear on what you're wanting. And, sometimes some of that storytelling would start in that brief. And look, I never thought of myself as a creative. Technically as a creative until kind of more recently when, more from people, it's like, well, I see you very much as a creative person, not a, so I've come very, very much from more of a business client focus and then bringing that creative sort of focus into it, which I think really gives a lot of breadth and experience on understanding how a customer or a visitor or a player might actually interact with something, and then obviously just running a business and being exposed to design and creative, just learning and, and kind of feeding off that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned there that your briefs were really on lock and you're a really good writer. What do you think makes a good writer?
Oh gosh, I mean, I guess it depends what you're writing, right? But I think
you're like, just follow Sam Ramlu's technique.
Oh my God. But I think with anything, it's this sense of how can you, reeling people in, like the first engagement is so important, right? First impressions, and then how can you keep them engaged? For me, it's always about tapping into that sense of curiosity that someone has and going, what can I do to find out more? And what are you giving me as a writer? And is there enough in here? Like I always find, I think some of the best stories are those where you can add your own imagination to it, that someone isn't filling all the gaps, that you're kind of visualizing it and going, oh, what if? So personally, I think it's a
lot of curiosity left for the engager.
Yeah, I feel on the whole, people want to be challenged. Like I know we're in this world now where everything's coming at you and you're consuming it. And sometimes you kind of want everything spelt out. But I think on the whole, as human beings, we want to add our own flavor to things. We want to be able to be challenged to think a bit. So I think anything that makes you think a little bit and then kind of lets you add to the story is the best kind of experience in my mind.
Yeah, I completely agree. They say though, Sam, that like never let the truth get in the way of a good story. What's your take on that?
Look, I think, and it's a really good point, because I guess in Wanderer, and I wasn't a writer on Wanderer, but high level, we were kind of thinking about what could some of the themes be. But I always feel like some of the best stories come from this small sense of truth or source of truth or something and then you go from there and develop it further. I mean, maybe some of even the wildest stories we've all heard might be true stories, right? But it's just taken a different path, right? So you can take that small nugget of information, which is what we've done with Wanderer, and that we take these historical moments and then you go, what if, like, and if you explore, what if this happened instead? And you build up this whole world. And a lot of some of the best movies and stories are, what if you took this little nugget and went down this path with it? What if that could happen? And so often it's, really interesting. And I think a lot of debate comes out of this because we've been watching something recently where we've gone, oh, they could have gone down this path a bit more before veering. But obviously the person had their story in mind, and they're there telling their story, so sometimes you can't kind of argue, like, well, if that's the story they wanted to tell, how can you tell them this is what it should have been? That's their story that they're in charge of.
Well, you would, because you're a great debater.
I'm like, hey, by the way.
You're like, actually.
It's actually, yeah. Well,
I'm going to take your story down this way because I think it's best, and I'm going to convince you why. Yeah.
And look, fan fiction. This is why fan fiction is so popular, right? Because people go, what if we took the character down this route? So
run me through, that's very fascinating. I find that very interesting. So run me through sorry, I'm just trying to get mosquitoes out of my cup. Run me through your creative process. Where do you start? You're mentioning words like take that little nugget and then explore and go down little rabbit holes, but is there any sort of set formula for you when you're taking someone down a creative route?
Oh gosh, I mean, I think in terms of ideas, I find inspiration comes from anywhere and everywhere. So often for me, it's just living life normally. And exploring and being open to exploring and adventures and, kind of finding out about more things, to me feels like that's where some of the nuggets come out of. And an example of that is literally, sometimes we'll be visiting the zoo or watching a movie, and you kind of take something that you got from there and go, oh, hey, that's a really interesting thing. Something I'll mention, which is really funny example, but, when COVID first started, throughout it, we, as a studio under Method, we lost a couple of contracts because essentially, people were kind of they lost some funding and the contracts, and so we were at a space where we had a couple of people who were free and available to do work. And so instead of kind of getting down on the dumps, we're like, why don't we do a fun project? What could we do? Let's build a game. And so the game idea, and we're developing it further now, which is crazy, was, there was this crazy thing about toilet paper at the time, right? And still, like, now everyone's got this thing about toilet. Like, who would have thought that toilet paper would have been making the headlines during a pandemic? And so I'm very, I can see the humor in situations, and I know it's an awful, it's still an awful period for everyone, but how, humor really helps these situations, how you can get, out of these situations. So we
created a toilet paper game or what?
Yeah.
Actually.
Yes.
I was being full-blown facetious. You've actually created.
We actually did it. So the idea of the game was essentially that we've got hordes of people, I won't say hordes of something else, hordes of people coming. So we've got this amazing teenage scientist who's discovered a way of making toilet paper from this machine through water. And so she's going around, she wants to help the world, through this crisis. And so she's got hordes of people come in, and she has to just deliver toilet paper to them, and before the hordes get her and crash her van. And what started off as a really cool, fun idea. And so funnily, Apple rejected the game because it was too close to the pandemic.
Oh my God.
I know. So 2 years later, we are developing this game into a full-blown game, which is just hilarious.
Wow. You'll be pleased to know a good friend of mine, actually, an entrepreneur. When Donald Trump became elected, he sold Donald Trump toilet paper in London and made about $60,000 in 2 weeks.
I mean,
he literally just stacked it, in the most very popular area, and was just selling it. Like it was free. It was like $3 a bog roll or something. Quite expensive, actually. When you think, $3 is like for 20, right? 20 pack.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny, and it kind of, I don't want me to I don't want my legacy to be that we created a toilet paper game, I'll be honest, but I guess this is the thing, is things can come out of even the worst situations. One of our best campaigns we did as a studio was actually for heart kids, and that was really off the back of our son was born with a congenital heart defect, and through that, at the same time, Heart Kids were looking for an agency partner soon after. And we were like, oh, look, we'll help do your website because we can see the pain that parents are going through. And anyway, we were their agency of choice for the next 6 years, and we did this amazing campaign. And the campaign came from a lot of our personal experiences of seeing our son there. It was called Born Fighters. And it came out of this idea that these kids are fighting for their lives, but they're born like that. There's nothing they can do to change the reality. But, just some examples of where things can come out of that you would never expect and how those things happen. And I guess that's the thing. I feel like sometimes forcing an idea is sometimes the hardest thing, whereas if things come to you naturally, you can grab it and go, hey, what if there's something in there, So that's my loose creative process. And then from there, you go into kind of more of a process of developing what does this actually pan out like. A game's very different to, a campaign or an exhibition, but they go through a similar process of designing what the user experience or visitor experience or player journey might be. And then what do you need to kind of satisfy them and keep them hooked?
Keep them hooked, 100%. And keeping them hooked, I do want to reference a book that you're involved with around how to be lucky. So you're involved in the book, The Boy and the Lemon, right?
Well, we weren't involved in the book. So James Herman wrote the book.
Yeah.
He put it on Kickstarter, and we were just starting out our journey in augmented reality and virtual reality. We've been doing it for a few years, really wanted to showcase to people how the technology could work, and saw this book. And I just thought what he was doing was lovely. For every book that was sold, there was one going to a not so lucky kid. And it was just a lovely idea on the principles of being lucky being taught to kids. And so I kind of reached out to James and said, hey, you don't know me, but, we'd love.
Shout out James. He's a legend. He's been on the show because he's really
yeah, I mean, he's epic. And so, through that, we started talking when he was like, if you're asking if you can do an AR thing on my book for free, then, what am I going to say? And we're like, great. And so we started developing this augmented reality experience. At the same time, we were pitching for it's really funny. We were pitching for a exhibition where they were looking for AR, VR content. And we said, we're building an AR, VR experience. And then we got accepted. And so we had to scramble and kind of build the VR experience. So, which is great. But through that process, and it was really, again, another one of those things that, I feel like through it, we got lucky. We were invited to showcase it in New York. Someone came and saw it. We got invited to showcase it in New York, and that just opened up all these other doors and experiences out of this one little contact,
That's phenomenal. That's
and you would never know that up front, like you don't know how some of these things pan out, right? Like I think sometimes planning in that sense can be, and this is from an over planner, can be a little bit overrated. You can't plan everything. Yeah.
Are you a big over planner?
I have spreadsheets. I have lots of.
I was going to say, like, one thing that would have definitely contributed to this success is your 88 words per minute on Mavis Beacon, no?
I was just going to say typing. I mean, it gets me through quicker during the day, right?
Do you have two keyboards? You do, You've just got a lot. I bet you got 3 screens. And you've got two keyboards. You're just bouncing between the
People
two.
are going to think of something else of me now. And no, look, I do like my lists. I like my spreadsheets. I like being able to cross things off. But I guess this is the thing, is I can balance that with understanding that the creative process isn't necessarily that rigid, But my travel spreadsheets are like,
Oh, yeah. I bet you they're bang on. I do want to talk about the premise of the theme of that book, though. I mean, the whole story about luck and a way for parents to teach their children that life's most magical lesson is how to be lucky. But I mean, contrary to that, like, I have a different feeling about luck, but I'd like to get your opinion on luck. Like, do you believe in luck, or do you think it's just a lot of hard work and talent, and therefore opportunities organically start to come?
Can I say it's a bit of both and be one of those people?
You can say whatever you want.
Look, and I think I say a lot of times that we've been really lucky, but I also know how hard I work, my partner works, and that exactly that I think luck comes from the fact that we work so hard as well, and that we've set up things years ago that is now kind of starting to come into fruition. So there's very, very much that, but there's a lot of also, a lot to be said about being at the right time, right place at the right time, and seeing some of those opportunities. But I guess who's to say there might not have been another opportunity? I feel like, and I'll take my son's situation as an example, like that's not a lucky thing at all, and most of my life, and I'm going to touch some wood because I'm not superstitious, but something to do. But I feel like I've been probably more lucky, in a lot of the things and opportunities that I've been given. But at the same time, when something like that happens, it's like, how can you link that to any sort of luck at all? And why is that happening to us and him and all of that? So it's a tricky thing, and I think it's also the resilience a person might have to make of a situation. And I guess the thing is, that resilience is something that I'm really keen to foster in my son as well, because I grew up in Fiji actually, and we moved to New Zealand because of the coup. So we were kind of rush moved as well. Not exactly fleeing a country, but probably not far from that, because
What age did you come to New Zealand?
Pardon?
What age did you come to New Zealand?
I was 9 going on 10, and that was in 88. So that was in the first coup. And essentially my dad was kind of seeing it from the front line, working at government. He could literally see it happening. And so we were pulled out of school, and a few months later we were in New Zealand. So for us, it was kind of like uprooting our whole livelihood and life, and quite a change in lifestyle. Like in Fiji, we were quite well off, completely different. Here we were poor. And, my dad struggled to find a job for a while, had to take something quite different to what he was doing. But anyway, I think it, like if I think back to that and think, it feels like a bit of a sob story, and people are like, oh my God, that's an awful situation. But it didn't feel that awful at the time, because that was life, that's what was happening. And so we came to New Zealand, that's what happened. I got teased a lot at school, just being different, and racism was pretty rife,
So you've experienced a lot of racism firsthand.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess the thing is, when I think to me growing up as a kid and thinking if my son had to deal with some of this, I'd be mortified. But as a kid, that's what was happening. And I guess it probably built a lot of resilience, because what can you do? You're in that situation.
What did you do? How did you handle with the racism at that young age?
There were moments, some of it was really overt, and I remember like literally a couple of times I might have cried in the corner, but not in that way, more just out of embarrassment than anything else. But you just take it on the chin. And I think a lot of what's probably changed in society now is that back then, you as a kid, and even now, you want to fit in, and so you changed a lot of what you did, and what you bought for lunch and what you wore, because you just wanted to fit in. Whereas now, and I'm just using this as an example, but if I sent my son to school with a samosa in his lunchbox, all the kids would be around him going, oh my God, yum. Whereas back then I was totally teased, and I just never, told my parents never to do that again. So that was kind of some of the things that we did to fit in, was, naturally just stop doing some of that stuff. And it wasn't so much that we're hiding the culture. I hope it wasn't, because we were still living there at home and stuff, but just wanting to fit in with the rest of the kids and being normal, so.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Just on that samosa level, just quickly, is that was that crafted out of India, or was it an Asian influence? Samosas.
See, this is, I don't 100%. Indian.
I just thought, okay.
I should know the answer to this. Yeah,
that's okay. But look, when you're talking about racism, that's horrific. But like you said, right, with every struggle, there's a positive. Like, you built resilience, and it's probably crafted you into the person that you are today, which is fantastic. But these days, it's still happening, but just in a different way, right? Through technology.
It's different levels of, and I guess the thing is, we were never handed anything on a plate, not a lot anyway. And I guess that's something that I'm also really conscious of, the balance of we're a lot more well off than we were growing up. And so our son has all these opportunities, but where's the balance of making sure that he also understands what hard work means, and the earning stuff, there's an earned right, but also going, he's a kid and we want him to have some of this amazing stuff that we didn't have, but this balance of not having him become too spoiled, essentially, because we're in our roles now because we worked hard for it. And if we'd had everything given to us, what would we be doing now, you know? And I'm really proud.
Well, you'd be either a copywriter, a typist, or probably working for
or a
Mavis,
lawyer.
Beacon, Sam. Yeah,
Yes.
or a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree. There's a lot to say for that. And to be fair, I do think this generation doesn't really know hard work like our forefathers and grandparents. They don't quite get that, right?
I mean, on the same token, though, I also feel like I truly also understand the mentality of this, you know, we have one life, and do we really want to spend 50% or more working? You know, what implies work? And I guess what I'd say is I've tried all my working life to work in something that I really love, so that it doesn't feel like work, you know. So I work some crazy hours, and you know, at the same time, I really enjoy the stuff that I'm doing. There are parts of the role I don't love, but you know, like everything, but as much as possible, if I can be doing things that I really love, then isn't that much better than if I'm actually, you know, working for, and I know not everyone's as lucky as that, you know, but I guess I do feel like
but you've kind of created your own luck in a sense, because you found your passion, you worked bloody hard at it, and look, and obviously you had a clear-cut vision too, and you got there, right? So
yeah, I don't know if I had a clear-cut vision, because typist,
right.
but, you know.
Well, it was a bumpy start between lawyer, typist, and copywriting and Mavis. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is really embarrassing that this is forming so much a part of the conversation. And I guess that's the thing, is who's to say that I haven't had, you know, like part of this is also the people that I've met along the way who might have introduced me to someone or done something, you know, and that all plays a part, right? All of that plays a part in the journey. And that's what I love, going back to the book. That's what I love about the book and some of the things in it, is it's really just opening yourself up to some of these opportunities. You know, there's also the principle of your gut feeling. And often, you know, when I'm kind of conscious of some decisions, and I've made them in the past, where you know, it's going with your gut, and sometimes I've gone down the wrong way, even though my gut's been telling me one thing. So all of those start to come into play. And I think that also comes with maturity. Like the longer you live, the more you kind of go, oh, I've had this experience, I can play back on that, you know?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, very great insights there. And I do just want to switch and talk a little bit about tech and social media. I mean, in total, the latest numbers, just do a little bit of research, suggest that the world will spend more than 12.5 trillion hours online in 2022 alone. It's in 1 year. We already know there's a big correlation between screen time, social media, depression, anxiety, and suicide. I mean, Sam, what's your take? Do you simply see humans moving further away from each other and into silos where they're with their devices in years to come? Like what impact do you think that's going to have in the next 10 to 20 years?
I mean, I think in a way, COVID was a bit of a not a wake-up call, but I think a lot of realization. You know, we had the Ready Player One movie come out, and this fear, and with AI and robots, etc. You know, this fear that people are like going to live in a virtual world, and that we would all be happy to live in a virtual world. And what we've seen come out of COVID is that you can't keep humans away from each other. You know, and that's in person, like you literally can't, you know. This is why we've got so many people being affected at the moment. But I guess out of that, it's a little bit heartwarming to know that people still really love each other's company. And I think the thing is, it's not to say that it's social media, it's not to say that it doesn't have a place, but it's just finding that balance. Like I often also find it tricky sometimes, because you can get down you get through the Twitter thread and you're in that world and an echo chamber and all those buzzwords, but there's a lot to be said about spending time with people face to face, off devices, talking. You know, a lot of the way we built our business is face-to-face relationships, chats and stuff has come out of that. You know, oh, what if we could do this, for example? So I think the thing is, I'd hate to live in a world where it was all virtual and that's all we ever did. But at the same time, it has, you know, it's brought a lot of advantages and some stuff, like, you know, look at your network of people that you know and can talk to, who you know are like-minded. We wouldn't have had that same thing if we were all living in a, you know, non-digital world. But then at the same time, like, how much time do you spend with these people? You know, I'm often saying to people, oh, we really need to catch up. We need to spend more time together. But there's so much time, right? So how can you kind of maximize some of those moments and not just spend too much of your life and time online? But yeah.
100%. And I know you love a good debate, and I like a good debate. And I want to debate that because you're saying people really value and love spending time together. However, every time I'm out and I see big tables of 20, they are more valuing their time on their phone, and they're not valuing the time that they're around their friends and family. So
yeah, and I wonder if it's sometimes it can be a bit of a crux, right? Like, now if you're waiting anywhere, instead of standing there and looking around awkwardly, you can stand and look at your phone awkwardly, you know. But I guess that's the thing, is I kind of because
that's the thing. What are they doing? Oh, I bet you they're not doing anything on their phone. It's just the same.
I'm waiting for someone. I better just bring my phone out because I'm gonna look like a loser otherwise.
It's just a safety net, hey.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, is sometimes those little things, you know. I was where was I the other day? I was at the garden center. This is so not normal for me, but like literally one day, and my partner came out because I was repotting. I even know repotting, but he came out and he said, "This is so odd to see you out here gardening." I'm like, I know, but I've started it. I need to finish it. So anyway, I was at the garden center, but it was really interesting because I was at the shelves looking at something. Someone walked past me.
Can we shout out the garden centre? What was it, Bunnings?
Oh yeah, is it Palmer's down in?
Oh, Palmer's, yeah. Shout out Palmer's. Guys, head to www.palmers.co.nz. Chuck in the discount code Sam Ramlu for a discount on your geraniums.
Oh, no. Oh my God. No, they won't know who I am. They literally see me like twice a year.
So you're not that much of a big deal, right? Gotcha.
No, not at all. But anyway, the point was that this person came in. I was looking for something, and I was kind of in the way, and they sort of shot me an annoyed look. You know, I was like, oh, she looks like a, you know, bee. Anyway, and then I saw she was holding this beautiful pot, and I was like, oh, you know, that looks awesome. Where did you get that? And she told me, and then we kept bumping into each other as we went through, and we started having this conversation as we went through. But I guess just that little moment of something where my initial impression of her was one thing, and the more we chatted, we started, you know, she's like, oh, I love the plants that you're getting. And suddenly we were just like garden buddies. Anyway.
More of the story is like, yeah, like organically keep talking to people, like, and you might find your best friend.
You are. Yeah, we're like this now, but
she's coming around for dinner tonight or something.
Yeah. She's hopefully she can come and do my gardening, but it's more just that if you're not open to those situations, what do you miss out on? Like, how much of an effort is it as a person to literally smile at someone when they're walking past or say hi, you know? And it can often be, I think I often come across as a bit of a snob because I do have a resting bitch face. And often I'm just like, I have a purpose, I have to drop off, school drop off, and I have to be back because I'm, you know, working, I'm busy, I've got meetings. But I think it's those moments that you find that actually people do enjoy those if you can get them talking, if you can get them out of their shell. But just, I think those are just gold moments that we have as human beings that we should make the most of, you know?
I couldn't agree more. And there's a lot to say around spontaneity there, and also just living in the moment and all those kind of cliche things. But yeah, like you said, like not being so gung-ho in our own head's mission, and just living in that moment, and then seeing the opportunities along the way, because there are a lot, and there's a lot that we can miss out on when we are just tunnel vision and trying to complete our own mission in our head. So I really do resonate with that. Hey, I do want to take a little bit of time to shout out the lovely sponsor from Hawke's Bay, Vanya, who runs Autophagy Skincare. You guys can check it out more online at www.autophagyskincare.com. Super cool company, mixed with like pomegranate, grapeseed, green tea extract, kawa, unisex formula, so guys can use it too. The packaging is made out of vegetable ink, and also the tube is made out of sugarcane extract, so completely
Sounds
environmentally
awesome.
friendly. Sam Ramlu's like, man, Luke, send me some right now. I might, if she gets her typing speed up to about 100 words per minute on notes, and I can send that through. But Sam, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you for coming on the Luke Farr Show to motivate, educate, and inspire our next generation of leaders. You've offered seriously some really great and valuable insights for the youth out there. Thank you, Sam, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
It's been awesome. Let me just hit stop record.